So we're going to talk about the frame today. And one of the deals with this is, as I said earlier in the video, I started out with just the cab. Just standard, or just the crew cab. And that was it. So eventually I bought this truck here. It's a 1978 F-250 Super Cab, long box. Just dominating my green truck, by the way. This is the truck I ended up using for the frame and axles. I also got the hood and the front fenders out of it too. The problem with the Super Cab long box is it's 5 inches longer than a crew cab short box, which is what this is. So I had to shorten the frame 5 inches. So you can see right here where there's 6 rivets. That's where the frame was shortened, and you can see in this picture here how I sectioned it out. The reason why the rivets are there is just for some extra insurance. I put a 1/4 inch plate behind that and press fit these rivets that I made, 1/2 inch diameter reamed holes. Press fit them in there, welded the back side of the rivets to make sure they didn't come out, just as a little extra insurance. And then I also added these little steel plates on top and bottom, and those are welded in, and the cross members bolt through it. A couple engineering friends of mine suggested that. And how do you argue with engineers? Well, at least the ones you trust anyways. And then in the front, we'll go over there. So over here in the front, this was a 78. So if you know anything about 3/4 ton Ford 4-wheel drives, up to 77.5, or halfway through the 77 model year, they're known as highboys, and they sit high, they look cool, and that's great. But halfway through the model year in 77, they changed how they changed a lot of things actually on the 3/4 ton 4-wheel drives. In the front, I think because they were wanting a little bit better ride quality, they went with these flat or slightly reverse arched springs. Like I said, for better ride quality, I believe that's why they did it. And I do believe they ride better than the high arch springs that were on the earlier ones. But I didn't want this to sit low up front like a 77.5 and later. So I instead of buying new springs, high arch springs, and then losing some of the ride quality, and because I'm cheap also, and also because, you know what, I had the frame off this thing completely. You know, this was all pieced together from different trucks. So, you know, if this thing was a running truck, I wouldn't do this. I'd just buy new springs for it, 3-inch lift or 4-inch lift or whatever, and call it good. But when you have the whole thing apart like this, it gives you the opportunity to do some other things that you wouldn't normally maybe do. And so the old pivot point for the shackle is right here. And so I lowered it 2.5 inches to raise the ride height. And then these shackles are a 1/2 inch longer because I was going for a 3-inch lift. As you can see in this picture right here, the new pivot point is, the center of it is even with the bottom of the frame. And it probably wasn't very clear on the previous video because the camera guy is an idiot. And then on the front of the spring, can't just raise the back. So on the front spring mounts, I made these, and they're 3-inch taller to raise the front end 3 inches. And that was the easier part of it. So as far as steering goes, you can't just raise the front end without changing something. So I ended up going with this 3-inch, or I don't know what it is, I think it's a 3-inch drop drag link. Now, I kind of regret this. I should have gotten a drop steering arm, and I still might. We'll see how it is after I drive it. I'm worried about bump steer a little bit. It's better to have the steering arm parallel with the arm that's on the hub. And then I'm not going to explain bump steer right now, but if you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about. If not, do a little research. Also, I added this cross member for a little extra support and strength. It also gets used to hold the radiator and the transmission cooler. So the thing is, I mentioned, you know, the earlier 3/4 ton Ford four-wheel drives are called highboys. So they changed, like I said, the front springs. They got rid of, one of the best things they did is they got rid of the wonky steering box with the power steering ram. That's just a nightmare. Now it has an integral. Halfway through 77, when they changed them over, they have an integral power steering valving all in the power steering box, which is a good thing. Being a 78, the rear leaf springs, they're 3-inch wide, standard heavy duty springs. But the highboys, they had 2 1/4 wide and a whole bunch of them stacked on top of each other. I don't know, like 9, I think. These are probably, I don't know, 5, I guess. And it just, it had to have made the ride harsh, I would imagine. Frame is also narrower on those in the back. I don't know what the deal with that is. And also, they went with a married transfer case as opposed to the divorce transfer case. And then they also got rid of the gas tank in the cab, which was typical on those highboys. If you're looking for a 3/4 ton Ford four-wheel drive from the 70s, you're gonna end up getting whatever comes your way. That's a good starting point. But if all things were equal, I would go with a 77.5 and later, because to make it a highboy, all you really gotta do is change the front springs and a steering arm or whatever. And those early highboys, they're just gonna ride harsher. The power steering is just wonky. They're cool looking, and I understand why people like them, but I think you're just better off if you can to start with a later 77.5. They're all cool though. I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but I just think 77.5 is a better starting point. A couple things. This frame, man, it's Michigan here, and the frame was decent, but it had some issues. Cross member braces and stuff like that were rusted out, so hence the custom made ones. Further back where the leaf spring mount is, same thing. The whole cross member was junk, so I made something. We got a fuel tank. It's 38 gallon, I believe, and made the custom brackets for that. The brackets that came with it, or the extensions, not good enough. So we came up with something better there. You can see the exhaust, 3.5-inch exhaust all the way back. Got a Ford Super Duty exhaust tip on there. Right now there's no muffler on it, but I bought a 3.5-inch muffler. I don't need it to be super loud. And I guess that's it for now. I'm sure there's things I probably wanted to mention that I didn't. There's the exhaust tip. So anyways, that's it for now, and till next time, guys.